long-term, untreated psychosis. And most importantly, we are connecting them with supportive housing and all the care and services they will need to succeed when they return to the community. When people are referred to these kinds of services, whether by a court order or other means, a good outcome depends on their participation and cooperation. Service providers make repeated attempts to keep those who need help engaged in the programs that are available to them. But there's no guarantee that those efforts will succeed. This is the kind of care Jordan needed, and that so many were trying to get for him. It wasn't always successful. Over the last several years, Jordan interacted with many city agencies and community-based organizations and providers. He had various encounters with the criminal justice system and was provided services to help him live safely in the community. But those efforts were not enough, and we must find ways to strengthen our system. It starts with investigation and accountability. Next week, we will bring together the leaders of the 5 organizations that we contract with to provide homeless outreach services for a summit on improving outcomes for people with serious mental illness. All of us will sit down at City Hall to develop an action plan to ensure accountability when there are missed opportunities to get those in crisis the help they need. We're also opening this discussion up to other stakeholders as well, including our faith leaders. Later today, I'm convening a meeting with a group of our faith leaders to discuss how we can address this challenge together. They are on the front lines of this issue, and we need their help and support. I urge all New Yorkers to do what they can to help other New Yorkers in need by joining up with groups like New York Cares, a volunteering organization that does great work for our city, or the Street Homeless Advocacy Project, an outreach organization founded by my good friend, civil rights leader Norman Siegel. We know that New Yorkers care, and we want our laws to reflect that as well. That is why we are urging our partners in Albany to act on the legislative agenda that I first announced in November, which we have now put forward as a bill entitled the Supportive Interventions Act. This bill addresses a series of flaws and gaps in the New York State mental hygiene law that are making it more difficult to help those who don't know they need help. We see this in one heartbreaking case after another. It's not the fault of those who are suffering. Severe mental illness causes this critical lack of insight, yet the only way they can be helped is through intervention. This is precisely why we need the law on our side. We need the tools to get people into treatment at critical moments when they are simply unable to self-direct. And that is what the Supportive Intervention Act is about. The Supportive Interventions Act will make it clear in the law itself what New York courts have already said in interpreting it. When mental illness prevents a person from meeting their basic needs to such an extent that they are a danger to themselves, the state has the authority to intervene. The bill would also make it crystal clear to our hospitals that a person should not be released from psychiatric care simply because they have calmed down and appear stable in the moment. People in crisis often need extended hospital care to fully recover. This legislation will also strengthen our successful Kendra's Law program, ensuring that court-ordered outpatient treatment is reaching all of those caught in the system's revolving door who need that additional care and monitoring to avoid relapse. We'll be making a major push on this legislation in the remaining weeks of the session. I'm proud of the strong support we have received for it from the folks doing this important work in the trenches every day, such as Bronx Works and Project Renewal. We will be building out the coalition and urgent action from Albany, action that can save lives. I urge our state lawmakers to pass this bill. I urge the governor to increase mental health resources in her next budget as she did in this one. It's time to strengthen accountability, expand services, increase funding, and advocate for a new era of reform and progress in mental health care. We need to be honest. There are more Jordans out there. People who are loved, people in need of compassion, treatment, and protection. People like Jordan. Jordan Neely's life mattered. He was suffering from severe mental illness, but that was not the cause of his death. His death is a tragedy that never should have happened. My heart goes out to Jordan's family, who's suffering great pain and uncertainty about the circumstances of his death. No family should have to suffer a loss like this, and too many Black and brown families bear the brunt of system long overdue for reform. Our work starts with acknowledging that we must reverse the effects of decades of disinvestment in housing, healthcare, and social services. We must recommit to our shared civic responsibility to look after each other as a city, as a society, as human beings who care. There were many people who did care about a man named Jordan, but it wasn't enough this time. We must keep trying before we lose another Jordan.